fabrication, livestock, tool reviews, homesteading, handcrafting, and much more. Our focus, however, is to make known our Christian faith. Sundays at 7 is geared for open discussion, education, study, and general fellowship, while presenting the message of Jesus Christ. Please interact, ask questions, encourage one another to share your faith. This is not a debate stage, nor a place to tear anyone else or their particular doctrines down, and definitely not a place for trolls. If you engage in hateful comments, questioning other people's faiths or beliefs, or if you mean to engage in debate and general ill will, our moderators will either ask you politely to cease or have already been advised to block you from comments and chats. The views and thoughts expressed on these live streams are just that. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy the broadcast. God bless. Hello everybody, and welcome to Sundays at 7 at Bar Run Forge. Our channel, as stated, is a combination of blacksmithing, farming, fabrication, livestock, tool reviews, homesteading, handcrafting, and much more. Our focus, however, is to make known our Christian faith. Sundays at 7 is geared for open discussion, education, study, and general fellowship, while presenting the message of Jesus Christ. Please interact, ask questions, encourage one another to share your faith. This is not a debate stage, nor a place to tear anyone else or their particular doctrines down, and definitely not a place for trolls. If you engage in hateful comments, questioning other people's faiths or beliefs, or if you mean to engage in debate and general ill will, our moderators will either ask you politely to cease or have already been advised to block you from comments and chats. The views and thoughts expressed on these live streams are just that. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy the broadcast. God bless. And welcome to Sundays at 7 at Bar Run Forge. Our channel, as stated, is a combination of blacksmithing, farming, fabrication, livestock, tool reviews, homesteading, handcrafting, and much more. Our focus, however, is to make known our Christian faith. Sundays at 7 is geared for open discussion, education, study, and general fellowship, while presenting the message of Jesus Christ. Please interact, ask questions, encourage one another to share your faith. This is not a debate stage, nor a place to tear anyone else or their particular doctrines down, and definitely not a place for trolls. If you engage in hateful comments, questioning other people's faiths or beliefs, or if you mean to engage in debate and general ill will, our moderators will either ask you politely to cease or have already been advised to block you from comments and chats. The views and thoughts expressed on these live streams are just that. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy the broadcast. God bless. A little glitch? Okay. Oh, okay. Are we good? Yeah, go ahead. Restart. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bar Run Forge and Sundays at 7. It is great to have everybody here. We're in the forge, but not forging, except we are forging on, forging relationships, forging, I don't know. Anyway.
Boo, bad joke.
Rob says he's going to be in and out. I'm going to say hi to everybody, Dana and Ev and Bill Wheel, Michael Hayes, Rob at Granddad's, and whoever else is in here. If you're in here watching, please say hello so we can say hi to you in the chats. We are on Sundays at 7, number 4 or 5. Yeah, something like that.
We took off last week for a birthday party, so now
right.
we're all mixed up on what week we're on.
Right. So we're going to try to keep going with these as long as you guys are interested in it. We'll continue with this. If we have to do more or do fewer or whatever, that's what we'll do, just to kind of keep this going. This whole Sundays at 7 was spurred out of the idea of well, we'd be foraging here at the Anvil, and somebody would put up a deep theological question, and I'd be trying to answer the theological question while at the Anvil trying to concentrate on foraging. And I thought, you know what? Why don't we just do something all by itself and completely separate? And so that's kind of where this got birthed out of. And we asked you guys, and you guys said, yes, absolutely. So here we are, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to try every other Sunday as best we can when time allows and everything allows. And so it's really more of an open discussion as much of anything. I'll have some notes and some thoughts to go over to kind of spur things along. If you guys have questions or uh, comments or concerns, things like that you want to add, please do that. Again, working off the premise that it's respectful and not a debate stage or anything like that. So yeah, Michael says he got CCI Flux Year of the Forge Great Blacksmith Christmas giveaway. Excellent. I don't know where that would have come from, right? CCI Flux. It was really kind of funny. I'll say this on that. We sent it to Roy, and then next thing I know, we find out that Dana is making all kinds of those stickers for Roy and Jess to give away on their live stream. So that was kind of cool and unexpected. It was kind of just like, hey, this is kind of funny and a joke, and then it just kind of took off as a thing. So now the pressure's on for this year. We got to come up with something else, right?
Yeah, we're definitely in need of a new idea.
So, anybody else jump in while we were chatting there?
Looks like we've got a few. They just haven't jumped into the chat
okay.
yet. But
Yeah, please interact with the chat. Like I said, I've got a couple thoughts here I want to share. Think of some questions, some thoughts that you want to share or ask. Again, I don't claim to be any kind of expert. I am just a guy who's been in ministry for a while and enough education to make myself dangerous in the field. Hey, there's Ed from Mule Kick. Hey, Ed, how are you? So we'll just go ahead and get started. So I'm going to be looking at something out of 3rd John, and I'll make this joke. We'll just go in the first chapter of 3rd John tonight, okay? In case you're unaware, there's only one chapter. But anyway, we'll be looking at verses 9 through 12 in 3rd John, and I think we're going to try something a little bit new this evening. Eli has actually prepared these verses that we're going to discuss, be right up on the screen for you there. So you can kind of watch and read and listen all at the same time. So 3rd John, starting with verse 9, we'll go through verse 12 as well. This is John writing, I wrote the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first, will have nothing to do with us. So if I come, I will call attention to what he is doing, gossiping maliciously about us. Not satisfied with that, he refuses to welcome the brothers, and he also stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God. Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone, and even by the truth itself. We also speak well of him, and you know that our testimony is true. So that's the verses that we're going to kind of quickly touch on a little bit. So the two people I want to talk about are mentioned right here. They are Diotrephes and Demetrius. Now, in the language, Diotrephes and Demetrius were probably not their given name. People often gained their name as life went on, or it would have been a part of their name. And sometimes it was. Demetrius was probably more likely his actual given name. Diotrephes was probably a name that he gained because of his actions that he was doing here. A guy like Barnabas would be son of encouragement. and that could possibly have been his name. I mean, we name people those kinds of things for a reason, but we also know Barnabas was an encourager. So anyway, Diotrephes, if you look at that word, it could be of two thoughts or two minds, or having a double thought. And Diotrephes also has the same connotation as a poorly exercised muscle. That could also be that same uh, idea. But when we talk about what John has to say about Diotrephes, there's one word that comes to mind very clearly, and that is the word self. Now, the word self has a lot that goes along with us. Hey, Will from Athol Ironworks. And Will, make sure I'm saying that right. I always say Athol. Is it, it's like Athol? Is it, whatever? If you can kind of give us the phonetics, I always just say Athol or Athol or whatever. I probably messed that up. But Will, hey, Will, how you doing? And that's out in Idaho, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, self. And when we start thinking about just sin in itself, um, self is the motivator for sin. We don't think about anything but ourselves when we sin. And when we think about ourselves, then we are motivated by ourselves and we act upon ourselves and for our own interests. Diotrephes took this to a whole another level when it came to this, as far as John is concerned. And the struggle here is that we find out that Diotrephes is a leader within the church. Somehow he became a leader. He got in a leadership role in the church, and then just went crazy. Just started doing all kinds of selfish things. Who was that?
Mark 6.
Somebody that's not in the chat?
Yeah, they might be. They just haven't. Well, they're not in the chat, but yeah.
Well, whoever it is, thank you
Yeah,
very, very
absolutely.
much.
Welcome to the.
Please, let us know you're here, and we'd like to talk with you. That'd be great. So the idea here about the self and Diotrephes becomes a leader within the church. He becomes a leader within the church, and then he starts doing all even further on these things. And it says right here, who loves to be first. Now, I'll give the illustration. We have two dogs in the house: Eli's dog, our dog, Barney, and August. Barney is our coonhound, and August is Eli's German Shepherd something.
German Shepherd, yeah.
But when the boys get ready to go to the bathroom or go outside, we hook them up together, and you get ready to take them out. And there is one of them that has to be first out the door, and he will actually kind of inch and creep his way up to the door. But August has to be out first. He always has to go out first. Now that's an animalistic instinct. He's kind of a goofball anyway. So he has this idea that he has to be first out the door. Uh, and when it comes to our Christian life, if we're thinking about ourselves first, like there's this phrase out there that absolutely boggles my mind that people use on a regular basis. Is I'm going to get mine, get yours, and talk about your best life and your this and your that and mine. And when you start thinking solely about being first, now look, I'm as competitive as the next guy. I mean, uh, you know, I- I'll just admit something here. It was tough. It was tough for me when Eli broke out the grip strength thing, man. When he broke that out, and I wasn't top on the list, that was tough for me. I've always prided myself in my grip. I've got issues with things, and I just don't have it anymore. I don't have the grip that I used to have, or at least according to that machine. And I wanted to be first. I wanted to be first place. I wanted everybody to see me as the guy with the strongest grip. And so I had, you kind of have to get rid of that self. You kind of have to get rid of that idea that you have to come in first. Like I said, I'm a competitive guy, and that's hard for me. But there's a big difference between being competitive and in a sport atmosphere and what we're talking about here. Um, Diotrephes was not just trying to be first; he was trying to be the first at everything. He was trying to be every eyeball on me, and to be known as the first and the head of everything. And worse than that, listen to what John says. He says he will have nothing to do with us. Now, who is writing this? This is John, the disciple whom Jesus loved, the apostle John, and his people that he was with. And, this guy's got a little bit of street cred when it comes to the Christian life. So when a guy like Diotrephes, who comes late to the party, uh, and is a leader in a church that John was instrumental in, when he starts not even having anything to do with the Apostle John, or for that matter, any Christian, I think he gets this superiority thing going on. Bill uses the term pride, and I think that's part of another thing. But it's just full on, all out selfishness. It has everything to do with just self, period. And it just keeps going downhill and getting worse and worse and worse. And so John says, so if I come, I'm going to call attention to it. Now, that is a tough thing. It's a really tough thing because when someone is so fixated on self, yeah, never diss an apostle. There you go. When someone is so fixated on self, how do you expose that without being, you get up in front of everybody and go, that guy's selfish, and not have everybody go, dude, come on. Yeah, that's just Diotrephes, it's our guy Diotrephes, he's a leader in the church. Why are you doing this? But I think on many cases, especially here, I'd say the people in the church probably were kind of like, yeah, they were kind of just waiting on somebody else to call him out on it or whatever. I would like to think that that's probably the case. Um, so John says, when we come, he would have had a group of other disciples with him. So when we come, I'm going to point this out. I'm gonna point it out, let everybody know. I'll call attention to what he is doing, and then he starts talking about what he is doing specifically. And he says, gossiping maliciously. I didn't know there was another kind. I always noticed this. They always say gossiping maliciously. I just didn't know that it was gossiping nicely. Doing a sweet job of gossiping. Gossiping maliciously about us. Not satisfied with that, he refuses to welcome the brothers. He also stops those who want to do so and puts them out of the church. So this guy's got a real superiority issue. And he's taking it to some pretty serious extremes. He's gossiping maliciously. He's saying bad stuff about other people. He's saying bad stuff about John. He's saying bad stuff about the people with John. He's saying bad stuff about the people who want to come in, who are a part of all this is going on. And basically, he's just saying it's all about Diotrephes. Man, that's wrong. It's crooked. You're crooked. Just kidding, buddy. Hey, Matt, how are you, brother? And there's Drew Wilson. Push that like button, he says. Definitely. Welcome in, guys. Love y'all. So we talk about Diotrephes, and I think, gosh, they may have been here at church for that sermon. Was that the sermon I preached when you guys were here out of 3rd John? May have been. I don't know. Can't remember. So I'm going to stop there for a second, see if Eli or anybody else has got some thoughts there about, he went so far as to say, put them out of the church. Not only was he like gossiping about them and wouldn't really take them in, if anybody tried to, he'd kick them out of the church. So he's usurping an authority. He's taking authority well beyond what it should be. Michael says it wasn't love thy neighbor so long as they have the tools you need to borrow and only to their face, right? Iron Antler Adventures, great to have you in here. Good channel there. They do a lot of fun stuff there. I've said this on multiple occasions. I think it would be fun on occasion to go magnet fishing. They do that some there and got some really cool stuff that come across. Okay, so that wasn't the sermon. Okay. So Eli, you got thought wise on that?
Bill kind of brought up the point of pointing out the Pharisees flaunting their wealth, the story of the Pharisees who would come in and boast and brag and make a big scene of everything that they did versus the poor lady who came and gave all she had. That whole story that definitely connects into kind of what this story as well. A lot of similarities between those two.
Yeah. And what was it they said? Oh Lord, thank you that I'm not like all those sinners.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That has to be like the epitome of just arrogance and
Mm-hmm.
selfish way of doing things, man.
Yeah.
Thank God that I'm not like all those sinners over there. If you don't like the stream, smash the button twice. That's a good one, Bill. so so yeah, we talk about Diotrephes. Okay, so we have options, and we really it comes down to two options to be Diotrephes. Now it means that doesn't mean we have to be a leader within the church, act like Diotrephes. We can be like him in anything that we do. We can gossip about people. We can think we're better than they are. We can be focused on being first and ourselves, and pushing people away instead of accepting people in and drawing them in to get closer to Jesus. That any one of us can do that. And what's amazing to me is I've seen people actually work really hard at doing this. It's kind of an amazing thing that they put a lot of energy into doing something like this. Um, and Rob says something that is similar to what Abraham Lincoln said power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Um, so, again, he's given a position of authority, he's given a position of power, which just made it worse. Look, I don't think that Diotrephes um, was a good guy until he became a leader. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he was a stand up guy and then he became a leader and became a jerk, a selfish jerk. I think being a leader just it made it worse than anything. And so yeah, we have an option to be a Diotrephes, or we can be the other way. So he gives the warning. He says, "Don't be like them. Do not imitate what is evil, but what is good." Paul writes, "Imitate me," and then he clarifies it. Paul didn't just say earlier on. Paul didn't say, "Imitate me," and that's it. He says, "Imitate me as I imitate Christ." So the idea of being these imitators, these people who are like Christ, John writes the same thing. Don't imitate what is evil, but what is good. And then he clarifies that anyone. There's no gray area here. Okay, anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God, and that's what he says. You've not even seen God. So I get frustrated with the idea that there is this gray area between what is good and what is evil. And I think the way we can clarify that should be pretty simple. And this is just my thoughts. Again, if I if I tell you this is just what I think, is just what I think. I'm not pointing to right here. I think that there are two things. There are things of God and things of the world. And if they're things of the world, they're things of Satan. And that's tough because some of the things of the world are kind of enjoyable. And they're not, they don't seem to be evil. And they aren't all evil necessarily because, you know, there are things that are permissible. It's just it, should we engage in all of those things just because they are permissible? And we can get into that whole other discussion as well. And then the things of God. Well, the things of God kind of make it pretty easy. What are the things of God? Well, the things of God are the things that He has created. He has created the heavens and the earth. He's created us. And so when we start with those things and work from there as the things that are good or things that are of God, we can then say, okay, well, the other things that are not in that category. Drew says football's of God, right? Uh, Four-legged one of belly rubs. Well, I understand that. So it's easy to get wrapped up in uh, I won't say trying to justify those things, but we can easily look at the things that are of God and say, okay, that put the stamp on. That's a good thing, and uh, and focus on those things. Do what is good. Okay, so we do what is good, avoid that which is evil, as some have said, and then so we get. Not only does he tell us how that happens, uh, it's Mike and Terry. How you doing? Let me know when that package arrives. By the way, Mike or Terry, whoever's up there, as I like to know that it made there safe and sound, and that you're satisfied with it. Um, so not only does he say imitate the good, avoid the evil, and then he gives an example of things that are good and evil, and then he gives an example of someone who has done evil, and then he goes to Demetrius, who has done good. So this is a super good teaching exercise here, and then he's multiple ways on how to emphasize his point, and he gets into verse 12, and he says, Demetrius is well spoken of by everyone, even by the truth itself. And I find it interesting that almost all the versions say by the truth itself. So that phrase is very clear in that that's what he's talking about, the truth itself. Well, what is the truth? Well, Jesus said, right? I am the way, the truth, and the life. So in other words, it stands up to muster. I'm always going to I think of things like this. My dad was a science teacher in chemistry and physics, and so dad would do these things called litmus tests. All right, so test the chemical or the base nature, acidity, um, and you dip it down in there, and if it's the color that you're looking for, then that's proper. And so for me, I try to operate on things as if it were a litmus test. Okay, if I put the down in there, does it come out as being godly or does it come out of being ungodly? And in this case, we look at Demetrius, and he can be testified that he's a good guy even by the truth itself. In other words, he gets put down into litmus paper, down into the chemical, comes back out. He's good. It's code good. There's Kenny from Metal Man. Hey, buddy. No, you're not late. You're not late, man. We're just getting into 3rd John towards the end of the book there in verse 12. And Eric. Oh yeah. Sorry, I missed that. Um, so Demetrius, he's well spoken of by everyone, even by the truth itself. We also speak well of him, and you know that our testimony is true. So they're speaking from their authority as leaders within the body, within the church, and uh, and so that gives credence to a guy like Demetrius. And I think that's really important. I asked the question, and I feel terrible because I know that there are people out there who have either heard wrong or I have acted wrongly, and they would speak not well of me. And that's tough for me. If someone has told lies about me and someone speaks ill of me because of the lies that they have heard, I have a problem with that because they don't have the whatever to come to me and say, hey, what's the deal? What's going on? So I have a tendency to dismiss those people because if they haven't verified it, to say, and then they go on their lives thinking a certain way about me or someone else, then I have a problem with that. And if someone was speaking maliciously about me and I haven't earned that maliciousness, I haven't earned that, then I have a problem with that because you're only as good as you're known by, you're spoken of. But if I have earned that malicious talk, that's the more painful thing. If I have earned the ill feeling or ill will, ill talk about me, I'm I'm more devastated by that than anything. I know my dad was one of those people who, as a general rule, nobody had a bad thing to say about him because if they did, they were trying to get something over on him. And my dad was a square deal and a guy you could ever come across. I mean, he would he was a terrible salesman, even though he did really good in sales. But he would give things away just so the customer was happy. He would make sure the customer was happy and got what they needed. And he was a very good, kind-hearted man about that. But he was one of those guys where um, when he passed away, I went into a local gas station, and gas station attendant. Hey, I heard about your dad. I am so sorry. And this person started crying. Just the gas station attendant. And that was just such a testimony to the impact he had everywhere he went. It wasn't, I'm going to talk to you because I don't benefit from talking to you, or I don't gain anything from talking to you or being friends with you, or you're just a gas station attendant or whatever. It was, everybody was fair game for Papal. Everybody was talking material and conversation material and story time material. And as a result, thousands, and I mean thousands of people showed up for his visitation and his funeral because of the impact he made. I mean, we know that there were a lot of people who came to the funeral and couldn't get in, or the visitation, and they had to leave. People that were driving from some distance away. We had people phone calls from different countries and things like that. And it's not to brag on my dad. It's just to say this is the kind of thing we're talking about. Is that's the kind of thing we should strive for, is to have that be the thought of other people, of us. So people can think of us like Diotrephes, who, well, that guy always, he's always about himself, or Demetrius, who everybody has good things to say about him, and he's a servant. He's a good person. So that's kind of my thought on that. And so we have a choice to be one of those two kinds of people in our lives. And I brought up an illustration this morning. I love this illustration. If I were to hand you a big spoon, we've got a couple of those around here. If I were to hand you a spoon, you have three options with the spoon. And I'm going to give this up in the chat while I'm talking. What are your three options with a spoon? And they all start with S. If I hand you a spoon, you have three options with a spoon, and they all start with S, what would they be? And while you're typing that in and thinking about this, because I know we're on a delay as well, because they're going to get this here in just a second, I'm going to finish up my thoughts on Diotrephes and Demetrius, and get to the final point on this, is that we have a choice as to how we're going to be perceived by other Christians, not just by other Christians, which is the case here, but by others who are not followers of Jesus Christ. How do people outside the church view us as Christians? And I've come to a very clear conclusion that it is not Jesus, it is not God that people honestly have a problem with. It is almost always people, a people issue. When you talk to somebody about, hey, why don't you come visit us at church, or tell me about your faith, or whatever, if they're opposed, they're generally opposed because of an experience they had with a person. Drew's cheating. Not quite, but you're close, buddy. It's generally as a result of an experience they've had with a person within the church, or some issue with someone in the church, and understanding that uh, you know we treat it like we treat church like we would like a baseball game or a basketball game. I heard another illustration similar to this. You know, if you went to watch your favorite baseball team play, right, and your favorite player um, has a lifetime batting average over 300, that's a Hall of Famer, right? And it could be one of your favorite players of all time. And he's great out in the field. He's only had 12 errors in his entire career, or something like that. You think, dang, this guy's amazing. But if we hold that same standard to Christians, a little different story, right? We want all our Christian friends to be batting 1,000, no errors, never miss. And it's just, they're humans. They're gonna screw up. They're gonna fail. We live in a flawed, failing world and flawed, failing bodies. We're gonna fail. But the difference is, how do we approach it? How do we go about it? Are we Diotrephes or Demetrius? And so you guys are coming up with some pretty good ones there. And I'm going to give you my three. I'm going to look at some of them here: slip, slurp, slide, scoop, scoop, serve, smack, serve, shave. I don't know. Spoon, shower, starve, scoop, share. Those are all pretty good. Roy, smack. Hey, Roy, how are you, buddy? So here's my three. Here's your three options with a spoon, with a good sized spoon. They are Slurp. You guys had one of those, right? And yeah, smack is one of them because I got the spoon on occasions too. Um, Slurp, okay. So if your first instinct is to take the spoon, put it in, that's consume. My first instinct is consume, to take it in. Diotrephes, to be first, take care of me, to be selfish. The second instinct is stir, stir the pot. I don't think anybody did they? The second option is to be a pot stirrer, to stir the pot. And some people, that's their first instinct. Diotrephes. He was a pot stirrer. He was rumors. Yeah, even toilet spoons. You can even toilet spoon, whatever. Uh, he was telling gossip about people. He was malicious about people. He was a pot stirrer. So he was stirring. So you got slurp, stir, or the third one, serve. Some people, their first instinct is to serve. And if I hand, it's kind of crazy because if you hand somebody this certain style of spoon, a certain size spoon, a ladle is not designed to consume out of. It's not designed to stir. A ladle is designed to serve. And so we have to think of ourselves as that serving spoon, as that ladle, that our job is not to consume, our job is not to stir the pot, our job is to serve. And if we are thinking in that way, we're going to be Demetrius. People are going to think well of us. If you walk up to the line, I got to tell a funny story, and I'll finish with that and kind of open up to you guys. You guys haven't asked any questions yet. We're past 7:35. No questions yet or no thoughts. So I'll share this story. My very first funeral I ever did, and I won't share all of it, but it was a young man, um, 19 years old, was away at North Carolina State, and he and his buddy were out one night, and his buddy was drunk and ran into a concrete bridge abutment, and he survived. The young man did not. Um, Severed his aorta, and this was like 3 o'clock in the morning. State patrolman called me. I went over to the mom's house. His mom and dad were split. Went over to the mom's house. She went to our church. The dad went to another faith. I won't get into all that. So they were split, and so I was there at 3 o'clock in the morning. Spent time with the family. We got ready for the visitation. The the religious leader of the other group, I'll just put it that way, never came to the house, never wasn't at the visitation. The day the funeral comes, I'd been there for hours. This is not bragging on me. It's just saying that's what we do. I'd been there for the hours prior to. We're literally, the funeral director said, "Hey, we got to start." The other religious leader was not even there yet. I'm getting ready to walk out to the podium to begin this funeral for this 19-year-old kid. All of his friends are there, crying, devastated. Finally, this religious leader comes in, haphazardly dressed and kind of thrown together and everything. And okay, what's the deal? And like, what's the process? It's like, buddy, I'm going out there to speak to these people about the loss and the grief they're going through. You figure it out. And so I did my thing. I came back out. He went out and he did his, particular thing that he was supposed to do. Then we went to the graveside. I did my normal thing out the graveside. He did his thing out the graveside. And I stuck around out the graveside, and this guy, this religious leader, found somehow to get away from the graveside, from the cemetery, and get to Grandma's house where they were having the funeral meal. He got to the Grandma's house before the ladies putting the food out. Yeah. And so we finally all get to Grandma's house. They're putting everything together, getting the food out, and the father, the grandma was the father's mom, of the boy, and she asked this religious leader to say the blessing, to have prayer for the food. And so he did the prayer, and he just happened to be right at the beginning of the food line where the plates were. And as he said amen, he was reaching for the plate, was the first person through the line getting all the food, and went and sat down in grandma's chair. So everybody was pretty well perturbed with them. And the key to this was just our presence as a body of believers made an impact on them, and it made such an impact on them. There were most of them who weren't active members at this person's place of worship. They came over to us and were very active members from there on out, and very, very faithful followers. And it just made such an impact of just our presence there, and not wanting to be first, but serving. And that, what we noticed was, even though we weren't a part of their congregation, many of the people in our church were there helping serve the food, not consume the food. And it was just such an interesting experience that had a big impact on me. So, Eli, you got anything before we jump into some comments and questions?
Not really. Just kind of looking at the comments here and seeing what everybody has to say. It kind of seems to be more so just taking it in.
Just consuming.
Just consuming. Good grief. And call you out like that.
Yeah. Is he still a pastor? I doubt it.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt it. I mean, at the time, he was probably 60 years old, the guy was. And gosh, I was 20. It was the year you were born. I was 23. And I'm 50 now, so I'm going to guess probably not. I'd say he's deceased by now. Let's see. Bill says, can take a man to the stovetop, but you can't make him eat. Trying to drown them in the soup, forcing them to eat will make them fight back. Well, that's probably true. Yeah. Not really, Michael. It's the same as leading a horse to water scenario. There you go. Lack of humbleness for sure. There you go. So that's kind of my thoughts for this evening. Is, we have those two options of being Diotrephes or Demetrius, and how people view us, and how we accept people and talk with people and serve people, and especially people who, think about John and his crew. They were traveling around, kind of living day to day, hand to mouth. Wherever they would go, they would be provided for as missionaries. And this is how they were greeted by Diotrephes, as opposed to Demetrius. Um, so yeah, it's very important. I'm a little, I won't say disappointed, since I don't see any comments or questions up there. I'm going to go on a little bit of Troy's tirade for a moment. Is that all right? I'm a little disappointed.
Depends on which way you're going.
It's okay. It's going to be all right. It's just a small tirade.
I'll just plan on in stream button if things go south.
Yeah, get ready for that. What do they call it? The dump button.
Oh yeah, dump button.
There's Brian at the Vineyard Farmhouse. Good to have you in here, buddy. So I'm a little, I won't say disappointed, but I am. We have abandoned hospitality, and I say that even within our churches, within our bodies. And what I mean by that is, I remember very clearly growing up that it was an honor and a privilege and a matter of servitude to invite like we had a guest evangelist or a preacher or a missionary or somebody like that, to invite them into your home, and not just invite them, let them stay in your home. And feed them and make them feel at home where they were, because they're foreigners, even though they're, as a general rule, natives. They're still foreigners. They've been off preaching gospel to others and bringing Christ to others. We should welcome them in. We should be very hospitable to them. And unfortunately, it's become very much a thing where, well, we'll put them up in a hotel and we'll take them out to dinner. And then, we go into a noisy restaurant somewhere and try to have a conversation with them, and we sit with our family. We don't sit with them. It's just one of those things that kind of just frustrates me and bothers me, is that we've kind of lost our sense of hospitality towards those who are the bringers of the gospel. And I say that about, a preacher or a minister, an evangelist, missionary, somebody like that, or someone who just needs our hospitality. I don't think it's specific to that. I mean, John was coming to meet with these people, and the anticipation was he would be met with, hey, great to see you guys again. We love you all. Diotrephes was trying to turn the tables and say, don't even greet them. Don't even let them come here. And that's harsh. And we've got people who are out there doing the work. We should welcome them in. We should love on them and give them our best, give them our care. So yeah, um, Kenny says he's listening tonight. That's good, buddy. Also, a lesson learned trying to get people to understand what is going on with the world. Yeah, give them a taste. Watch the reaction first. There you go. So yeah, I mean that's kind of that's a short tirade, but nonetheless, I think it's time that we embrace hospitality again, and it does come with risk. I get that it does come with risk because we have had people in our homes that have, we've kept them overnight and we've fed them, and they've been slobs and trashed a room or consumed and just basically been there to and with expectation. I have a problem with that part. Is just come with the expectation to serve me is an issue. Um, if we go into a competition about anything, I think our competition should be to outserve each other. Maybe if that's the thing we want to be first at, let's be first at trying to outserve each other. You know, those fights over no, you go first. No, by all means, here let me. Those kinds of things. It's kind of a funny frustration that we have. Like, no, I want to serve you. No, I want to serve you. I want to do for you. Kind of thing. And hey, let's go out of our way to do that kind of stuff. And we it is about how we treat people, and it's a scary thing too because um, there are plenty of people. You think about people stranded on the road, and what are we told now? It's probably a trap. It's a trick, and let the police handle it, or let roadside assistance handle, it, or something like that. So
I literally was about to comment on that the other day. I was on my way home, and I was like, I'll just grab something on my way back home. And as I was pulling into the McDonald's, they kind of have this switchback road that cuts back in near Williamsburg. And as I did, I saw a lady, her car, I think, ran out of gas right there in front of the gas station. So I pulled in. This car was kind of parked sideways because it's a really quick cutoff, so that way nobody came around and hit the corner or anything. And this other guy was pushing the car, helping her, move and everything like that. And then as soon as he got over there, he was like, hey, kind of like I could see he was like pointing, and I kind of stopped to just, check and see if they needed help or whatever. And he said, do you want me to, help go grab gas or anything like that or whatever? And she's like, no, 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 no. Like giving him the, the shake off basically. And two other people were, and I was there, and I was like, hey, do you need help? Do you need help? And she was so just, stay away, stay away, stay away. And of course, I'm in the McDonald's parking lot and drive-through waiting for my food, and here comes the state patrol office. Luckily, the state patrol office is literally right around the corner.
yeah,
So there was somebody coming back in from their patrol and saw her and helped her get gas. But I went over to help again because he couldn't operate one of the little safety nozzles for the gas can. And as soon as I started, I parked my car in McDonald's after I got my food. I walked over and I was like, hey, can I get some help? He's like, no, 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 I got it. And I was just like,
yeah,
so I would say taken back by two opportunities that I had to help somebody out and was pushed away and shoved away. And,
yeah.
I'm waiting for somebody, the authority. And I was like, I could have solved your problems in about 2 minutes.
Right.
But,
right.
Stay away, stranger danger kind of thing.
Right.
It was just a very interesting situation.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a frustrating thing in that, there are people who have need and people who can fit the needs and take care of the needs, but we've created such a society that is suspicious. Just think about, I'm a door opener. I hold the door open for just about everybody. And I get people who are just like, no, it's good. I'm fine. Some others are like, wow, thank you. The ones that frustrate me more than anything, not even the guy who, when you open the door, the person you open the door and they put their hand on the door and say thank you, like thank you for serving me, but I've got it. The worst ones are the ones that just blow right through the door, like right past you. It's not that I need thanks, but let's be human beings. Let's be kind to each other as we do for each other. And yeah, that's a very good point, Michael. How many times have you honestly regretted serving someone? Um, yeah, can they be hurtful? Yeah, people can be hurtful because they're people. We're we're terrible creatures on, on many occasions. And Drew, to your point, what would John look like? Is he the guy outside the soup kitchen on a Thanksgiving? What do you think his demeanor would be? That kind of thing. That's the easy answer. Um, but I think the people that we think that okay, will help the poor, help the needy. Let me tell you something. The people who are in Diotrephes' camp are more common, and they're the ones who, honestly, more than anything, they're the ones who need Jesus. They need to see that it's okay to not be first. It's okay to serve. It's okay to be served with humility. Um, imagine just go through the list of people that you read, these celebrities and athletes and people in those categories who are they're committing suicide and they're we think they have this great life and they're void. I mean, they're empty. And what are they empty of? Well, they're full of themselves, and they think that's what's going to fill it. They think that's what's going to fill their lives. It's just if I keep if I just keep dipping in there, I'll get full, and it just never happens. Um, and I think that's a ministry within itself. And if oh yeah, he wants to minister to the rich people and the famous, right? Well, somebody has to. Somebody's got to reach out to all of them. I mean, consider Jesus' ministry. Think about who he ministered to directly: prostitutes, adulterers, tax collectors, fishermen, uh, rich guys, poor guys, sick and afflicted people, everybody. You know, he ministered to everybody, and so I think we have to take the same approach as well.
So, something interesting on that too. You point out all those people that he, I say kind of directly ministers to is the prostitutes and the Pharisees and the rich people and everything like that. That he focused on those people, but who followed?
Yeah.
The common people followed in behind because they wanted to see what was going on.
Hmm.
Why would the righteous man of God be talking to the prostitute, which attracted the common man to figure out what's going on.
Hmm.
And I think that's a very interesting, again, God knowing what he
And some
knows.
with suspicion
Yeah, yeah,
was why he's doing that, right?
right. But also, it's fascinating because you look at it. Jesus is talking to the I don't remember which one it is, but like, and then it said that a crowd forms around him. Who's the crowd? The crowd's the common people,
Mhm.
and then then the rich people follow in behind it. And then he's
Right.
ministering to the rich people, and more people from the crowd follow in. And I say the tactic that he uses to get the common people in, while ministering to the uncommon, the outsiders, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about of all the people who might have denied Jesus in the New Testament, in the Gospels, there was one guy in particular who really wanted to follow Jesus, but he couldn't. He just said he couldn't. It was the rich young ruler. Because Jesus said, okay, give up everything you have, follow me. Now, Peter did, you know, Peter, those fishermen disciples, they threw their nets down and came and followed Jesus in the middle of doing what they were doing. The rich guy couldn't do it. He was sad. He was sad because self wouldn't let him do it. Uh, so man, that's a tough nut to crack right there. Look at some of the comments here. Roy says your character. We'll go back to Brian. Unfortunately, this generation coming up has not been taught the values of being a gentleman. Right, I agree. By many, your character is not defined, Roy says, by others, but by your own actions. It doesn't matter whether they like it or not do it anyway. That's exactly
That's a
it.
Batman quote.
Accepting help can be hard. I agree, especially when you know there are others that need it more than you. Um, yes and no. Just because you need it and you're being served doesn't mean you need it less than someone else.
I think another, honestly, a kind of a jokey phrase we always did, but something we always kind of threw around in college and some of the ministry places I was involved with was don't rob somebody else of their blessing.
Yeah.
Because if I have the opportunity to serve you and you take it as an act of like, oh well, I don't need it, I'm good, I'm okay,
Right.
but that's somebody doing work for the kingdom. Don't rob them of an opportunity to do kingdom work
Right.
just because of, honestly, and again, it kind of falls back into that pride thing of like, I don't need it. I appreciate it, but I don't need it. But also allow that person to do, that's a gift that they've been given. Let them use it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And that's a hard thing. Some of the folks are saying, it's hard, I don't want to take from someone else, but at the same time, if you don't accept someone who's willing to serve you, you're robbing them of a blessing for themselves. And if they're trying to serve, let them serve. Um, it's a hard thing though. Pride is what gets in our way. And at the same time, it is a humbleness. No, 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 it's okay. Please serve someone else when they really wanted to serve you. Um, Rob Skib Skibas. There we go. I'll get it. Testimony of being broke. When he got his first check, and told him to give it to a homeless man. Seriously interesting testimony. Good too. Very good. So yeah, it's and thank you, Drew. It's a really interesting thing, and let us be guilty of somebody saying, "Gosh, I had to turn the guy down all the time. I had to tell him all the time, it's okay. You don't have to do this thing. You don't have to, go out of your way to make this thing happen or serve in this way. Let, let your legacy be. We had to shut him down. We had to turn him down because all he wanted to do was serve. And it's just to let that be the legacy instead of saying, well, he was a nice guy, but he was always first in line. He was always the guy who, never offered to help anybody, never offered to do for anybody else. It's just, yeah, we really, really have that. And it literally is just these two people that we're talking about here. I mean, it is Diotrephes and Demetrius. And so those are the two options that we have. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to demonstrate the love of Christ by doing that. Because there is this conception or misconception about all Christians. See, there are those who look at Christians as the only thing they see about Christians is what they see on TV, with maybe a TV evangelist or somebody who's selling books or selling their wares or shiny suits or whatever. And so that's their perception. And I've had many people over the years that the only reason why they don't come to church, number one, other than people, is that the preacher's always asking for money or something like that. What if we were the people who were known for, man, these guys won't stop giving me. They won't stop serving me. They won't stop doing for me. And wear them out that way. Did I see Mr. Crawford come in? Yeah, Mr. Crawford, how are you, buddy? Um, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to accept help for sure. Yeah.
I had another story real quick on that. It's kind of a cool example. So the church that I went to in college, um, we had basically a giving campaign every year where they put envelopes under everybody's chair. And this is, my gosh, at one point the church was about 1,600 people in a town of about 7,000 people. So it was kind of wild. Of course, being a college town, a lot of college kids attended as well. But each year they did a giving campaign where they would put $10 in envelopes under everybody's share. And of course, for us college kids who didn't have any money, it was like, hey, we get to use the money for that. So the first year that they did it, we all went out and they gave us 3 specific locations to go buy stuff for and then donate to. So there was one year, the first year we did it, the donations were tripled. So what the church gave back, everybody in the community tripled.
Yeah.
And that we filled every place up with more than enough stuff. They were blown away by it.
Yeah.
The next year, they were um, almost quadrupled. And the cool thing about it was a lot of people started winning with, yeah, you think, okay, well, I'll go to Dollar General and get cleaning supplies, get the dollar cleaning supplies. The next year, and a lot of people had talked about this, was everybody was like pulling their money together. So like people would go in groups,
Yeah.
and it just kind of organically happened to the point where they would pull their money together, and they were buying bulk stuff. They were going to like Sam's Club and Costco and everything. It got to the point where one of the like New Life Clinic kind of place,
Right.
that they literally said we can't accept anymore. And we were like, oh, okay, whatever, sure. And we walked in, and there was literally a room about this size that was filled front to back. They were like, no, we literally can't accept anymore.
We don't have
And it was just kind of one of those moments, the ladies, of course, are crying and everything like that. They're like, we didn't expect this. We didn't,
Right.
go through it. So it was a really cool experience to see that being known for over giving to the point where they're like,
Yeah.
we can't do anymore.
Feel shaken down, right?
Yeah.
And overflowing.
Yeah.
Very good. Mr. Crawford says, "Stupid blessed." Thank you. As are we, brother, and especially by people like you. Well, it is 8 o'clock. That went by quickly. Yeah. 60 years of toilet paper. Is that enough now? Yep. I think that might do it. Anybody have anything else real quick? We can try to address it fairly quickly. Again, our next um, Sundays at 7 will be likely. We'll go with that. Will likely be on May the 21st. May the 21st. And I know some of you will be in Oklahoma. I know at least one or two of you will be in Oklahoma. And Abby's trying to FaceTime me right now. Why is she trying to FaceTime me? Be online. Be watching. Very good. That's good. Hey guys, I don't know how many we had in here. It doesn't matter. But again, May the 21st, we'll come back. If this is something that needs to happen just once a month, every week, whatever, we really, this is for you guys. This is, and for us, we enjoy it. We really have a good time in here doing this. And this is kind of the format. If you want things to kind of change, or hey, try to address this, or what about looking at it this way, please do that. If you have questions or something you'd like for us to discuss on the next one, please send us those questions. Hope don't bet on us trying to remember what happens in the chat here, because unless Eli writes it down to screenshots, it's gone. And so yeah, man, what a blessing this is. Kenny says his son flies back to Alaska tomorrow. Good, that's good, man. I know you wanted to be here, but that would have had you missing some of that time for you and your son. So I'm glad you guys had that great visit, and thank him for his service, undoubtedly. And so anyway, 8 o'clock. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. Please, and again, let us know what you want out of Sundays at 7 or any of our content here at Bar Run Forge. If you wanted us to be a deeper theological type of thing, or study based, or the topical, or whatever it is that you guys need from us, we'll do our very best to make it happen. But just know that we love you all. God bless you. Eli, you want to kick him out the door?
There we go. Sorry, I have to turn my microphone back on. Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of point out, like you said, if you guys have questions prior to the show, always feel free to, half of you guys have our numbers, or Instagram, Facebook Messenger, email, whatever. Shoot us some questions. If you got a particular topic that's on your mind, or something you want to learn more about, I know I always have questions and different things that I could bring into, these type of discussions and everything. So I'm sure you guys do, and if you do, definitely send them our way. Otherwise, you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and definitely share this content out if this is something you guys like. Not a lot of people, I say, would know about this, because it's more of a faith-based thing than it is the blacksmithing thing. But if you know anybody that would enjoy this, always feel free to share it. That's one of the best compliments you can give us, is to share our content out. So appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great week. God bless, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, y'all. other people's faiths or beliefs, or if you mean to engage in debate and general ill will, our moderators will either ask you politely to cease or have already been advised to block you from comments and chats. The views and thoughts expressed on these live streams are just that. Thank you so much for joining us and enjoy the broadcast. God bless. Hello everybody, and welcome to